last night. We got just a few minutes. We're going to give it just a second so that we can get some people on. Hope everybody had a good New Year's, safe. Everybody enjoyed their time away. I'm sure this is the first week back from everybody. So hopefully you guys had a good work week. Enjoying a nice Thursday. One more day to the weekend. I believe we still have some nice weather here. Silver Serpent, how you doing? Good to see you here. It's really hard to do this. Can't see me. Uh, this is not good. Let me try. All right, are you able to hear me now? Is that any better? Let me check audio. Really? I wonder if I need to cancel this and try another audio. Let me try another audio location. Hold on just a moment. Appreciate you working with me. Sorry about this. See if we can change. How is that? Is that any better? Are you able to hear that?
How about that? Is that any better? Let me unplug that. Okay, so I'm showing the information. If I turn my head this way, is it clear? So what I may need to do is I may need to adjust the boom. Let me bring, ooh, that's not going to work. Let me try to bring this boom back over. All right, so what I'm going to do is you can hear me better now? Thanks, folks. I appreciate that. Sorry for the little bit of a cluster starting out. Again, Frostbite here. I hope everybody had a good New Year's. Thanks for coming in. Today's discussion, we're going to be talking about, it's going to be the third and final segment in my counterfeiting series. And what I want to kind of go over is the top 50 coins. Now, I'm really only going to be targeting the top 10 counterfeit coins. But there's something really interesting about the top 50 coins. And that is from number 11 to number 50, there's only one coin, and that is number 43, which is the 1889 CC Morgan dollar that is not gold. Now you have 3 coins or 4 coins in the top 10 that are not gold coins, but a majority of the counterfeit coins that they see, and this is according to NGC and the information that they receive. But you're talking about 43 to 44 of the top coins that are counterfeit being gold. Now, where this becomes really important is for those of you who stack gold, right? And so this is something that I've been trying to talk with people about. And there's a lot of people who have way more information, way more knowledge than I do. But what I really want to impart to people is that if you're going to be stacking silver and gold, and you're going to be doing it in the realm of numismatics, now we're not talking just bullion, we're talking coinage. There are some things you really need to pay attention to. And as I was looking through a lot of this counterfeit information, the one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that there's such a large volume of gold in this particular counterfeiting subset. Now, I've got my little penny book sitting here, and I've got that out for a reason. There's 2 little holes in there. Anybody who's familiar with this penny book is kind of going to understand which 2 those are. And these 2 coins come in on our top 10 list. And I bet you guys can guess immediately what those are. But without further ado, there's going to be a few honorable mentions between coins 11 and 50 that I want to talk about. And one of the ones that really kind of sticks out to me is the most seen counterfeit coin is, according to NGC, the one that they've seen, there's some 4.4 million $10 Indians that were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And they say that this is the most seen counterfeit coin at NGC when it comes to this particular variety of coin. And I thought that was really important because when you're looking at coins and coin values, when you're looking at buying these things, it's really important to understand which ones are seen the most. The other one that's a really of important, and many people are familiar with this, is that the $5 1912 Indian. And this is, again, it's one of the more common ones within the numismatic communities. And there's a lot of information on it. There's a lot of detail about, what's up with this particular coin. But it's just one of those where, you're talking about, $2.50, $3, $5, and $10 coins. Now, there's only 4 gold dollars that are only worth $1. They're basically like the 10th-ounce coins. And one of them is the 1874 gold dollar. Now, with there being 50 coins on here and only 5 of them are of the dollar variety, these are going to be really important to understand if you have a small budget and you're looking at, gold at the 10th or maybe, half ounce type size coin. Because these are the ones that will potentially set you back should you not really understand that. Now, I'm not going to go too much into these lower ones, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of get back into. Now, I don't know by a show of hands or in the chat, how many of you have heard about the Omega coin? Are any of you familiar with that? So number 5 on our list, and we're going to be talking about this here in a little while, is something that I just watched a video on, and it was a coin that the counterfeiter, they called the Omega Man. And this is something that as we get into the top 5, I want you to kind of listen to and pay attention in the back of your mind. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this, and I'm going to show you number 10. Now, when I asked the question live, I didn't get a whole lot of responses uh, about what people thought the most counterfeited coin was. But of the people that did respond, Morgan dollars were pretty much the thing everybody thought of. And it's true. There's a lot of Morgan dollars that are fake. They're coming out of China. But China's not the only place where these things have been identified. And as increases in technology come, you're going to see better and better fakes. But again, there's a lot of things to look at. I've talked about this uh, a couple times over my live streams and on other videos about counterfeiting. So I'm not going to really get into specifics within the Morgan, but I am going to tell you a couple things that you're going to be looking for. Now, the reason that, yeah, Silver Serpent, the nickel with Henning was pretty big, but because there was such a low volume and most of them got dumped, I think 400,000 Hennings were dumped into the river by where he was located. And so not all of the ones that were created made it into circulation. And so because of that, you don't see a lot of them. The other thing is a lot of people, the Henning nickel is such a collectible item that they see it, but not nearly as much. I mean, it's not even close to the top 50. But let's get back to this 1893 S Morgan dollar. Now, if you look at Morgans, there's a couple things. Again, you're going to look at the detail in the hair here. You're going to be looking at mint marks. You're going to be looking to see if the mint mark has been added. And one of the most common features, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I don't know if you can see this very well on the screen. It's a pretty decent image, but when you zoom it in this close, it's kind of hard to see. But when you look at the area around the S, you're going to see kind of how it's got this kind of highlighted area around it. And normally what happens is you'll get kind of a moving of the metal, and so you get this kind of ring around a mint mark. And so when you're looking at coins where they've had mint marks added, you're going to be looking for this kind of pushed metal around the mint mark. And it's not just like it's been cleaned. Normally this would be dark. If this were a clean coin, this would be clean, and then you'd have a darker rim around here. This is actually lighter than the surrounding metal, and it's because that metal has been pushed out. So this is something that if you're going to be looking at, it takes a trained eye. I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference in this, but again, this is why it's really important to have people that you trust. The other thing is, as we get over here into the hair, you're going to want to look at the detail. Now, you'll see that. Now, what I will say is, when you look at Morgan dollars, or when you look at any coin that is counterfeit, and it doesn't have any rubbing on the cheek, and there's no wear down, but there's no detail in the coin, that's a pretty telltale sign. Okay, so when you're looking at the hair, you can see that there's really, I mean, there's some detail in here, but there's not near as much detail as you would find on some of the other ones. And so these are things you need to look at. And the more you look at those coins, the more you'll start to see those things. I talked about this a lot when you're looking at things like the Liberty. Now, some of these are really good examples, but you're going to look for wavy lines in Liberty. You're going to be looking at the lettering here to see if it's wavy. You're going to be looking for crisp, clean lines within the lettering. And there's going to be some other things that you'll look for, but it depends on the coin and what kind it is. Yeah, exactly. Generic looking coins. That's a great word for serpent. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move over here to the number 9 coin. And this is the first $2.50 Indian that we have. This is the 1925D. Now, there are going to be some commonalities between all of the gold coins that I show, and that's going to be, you're going to be looking around this area of the neck, and you're going to see little trail marks that kind of run through here. And it's pretty common in most of the Indians that take the top 10. Again, just like all coins, you're going to be looking, just like Silver Serpent said, you're going to be looking for that generic kind of dull detail. Um, but one of the things uh, with these particular coins is that because so few of them were minted. So in this particular case, there were 578,000 of these coins that were minted, and they were specifically done to fool investors, right? To fool those collectors, because there's a huge numismatic value to the coin. Now, some of these coins that I'm going to be talking about were actually made of gold. So they actually used gold in the making of the coin. Now, there's a couple of things that they used to do with gold coins. So you would find when they talk about shaving, I'm sure many of you have heard about shaving coins. So you could look at the edge and you would see, areas where they were shaved down. And what they would do is they would do this over, 25, 50, 100, 200 coins. And then they would get that gold and then they would basically do a really thin plating over what kind of material they were using. Now, in the old movies, you used to see somebody bite the coin. That's actually a real thing. And the reason that they used to do that is gold is soft, but some of the metals they used back in the day were much, much softer. And so you could actually bite into it and it actually leave teeth indentations. And so when you got a gold coin, what the hope was is that you bit into it, you wouldn't leave an indentation with your teeth. So that actually is a real thing. That was one way to test it. Another way to test a gold coin was to rub it against something. They have a paper that you can rub. If you rub it against the paper and it's black, it's fake. If you rub it against the paper and it leaves a gold line, then it's real. So there's a lot of things that you can do. But again, there's going to be pretty standard items when you're looking at this particular area across multiple regions of coins. Yeah, exactly. Silver Serpent. A lot of the Greek coins were made out of, it's not iron. It's, oh, am I going blank? I can't think of the name of what they were called. But anyway, it's a really soft metal. And it was the same thing. You'd bite the coin and it would leave teeth marks in it. So let's go ahead and go to number 8. So this is the first $5 coin in this particular set. Now this one with a 1915 had approximately 600,000 in the mintage. And now when you're talking about coins in this is a fairly large mintage. And it's a fairly, lead. Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Lead is very soft. It's much softer than gold. And so because it was relatively common, it's still, the numismatic value for a really fine is still worth more than the value of the gold. And so again, you would see where people would use actual gold and then manipulate the information to show like a 1915. Now, one thing that you would see, and this is common in a couple of the older coins that you'll be seeing when they get a little bit higher on the list. So one thing you'll look for, and it doesn't have, there's some coins it doesn't happen in because of the years. But where coins have 30-year, 40-year runs, if the 8 is farther separated than normal, or the 9 is separated here, so there's more of a gap here, what it could mean is that they've modified a 4 into a 1. And so you'll see a larger gap between these two coins. Now, the number 3 or the number 4 coin on this list, you guys will see this. This is something you definitely need to look for, but we'll talk about that. So this is something else that you can do. There's also on some of the Indian coins, there obviously you're going to be looking for telltale markers, right? So you're going to be looking for standard marks that are going to help you identify. And those marks are called diagnostic tips, right? So, the diagnostic tips is going to tell you kind of where that particular coin had impressions or indentations that show you whether it is or is not authentic. Okay, so the next coin that we're going to talk about here is our first non-gold, and that is the 1922 Philadelphia, has the no D. Now, without saying, it's pretty clear what would happen and what people would do here, and that is by looking at the coin. I'm going to kind of zoom in here. They would remove the Denver mint mark. Now, there's a couple things to look for. Obviously, if you see this particular coin and you see there's a really strong 2 here. So one of the diagnostic tips for this particular coin is a weak first 2. So if you have a really strong second 2, it's an indication that it's probably not real. The other thing is that on the top of the coin, excuse me, let me get there. On the top of the coin, for a authentic coin, there's a really good solid strike on In God We Trust. And so you're looking for a couple things. You're looking for the a weak In God We Trust. Again, you're always, for every one of these coins, you're looking for weak details across the board. But you're going to be looking for that the 1922D, which is modified for these coins. They had the really strong In God We Trust, where the 1922 Philadelphia doesn't, right? So if you see that really strong imprint in here, then you're going to know that that's something you want to look for. Now, just because you have one that's really strong doesn't mean that it's a fake, but definitely you're going to want to be looking at this. Okay, and then again, you're going to be looking at the week D, which is the first 2 in the date. So the next coin that we're going to talk about. So again, we're back to gold coins. Let me get over here. So the next one is going to be the 1911. Now, when you talk about the 1911, there's a couple things that you can look for with these coins. That, again, they span across each one, but there's some things, and I wish I would have captured an image of it. I don't think you can see it on this one. But again, right here where this comes up, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. Can you see these kind of lines that come here? So they should run this direction, right? They should come like this. But the ones on the counterfeit are the opposite direction. So there's like 3 or 4 lines, but they run opposite. So there's really strong tooling marks. The other thing that you can see in these particular coins, and I don't know if it's on this one or if it's on the other ones, but there'll be lines, very strong tool marks, they called spikes, around the outside of the coin. And if you see that, that's, again, it's another really important diagnostic tool. So this is the coin that I wanted to kind of go over, because this is the one that's called the Omega. And if you ever get the opportunity to see one of these, this is probably one of my favorite coins. And what you're looking at in this particular coin, again, in 1882, this is the $3 coin. There was a counterfeiter, and they called him the Omega Man. And the reason that they called him the Omega Man was because in the R, and you can't really see it in this image, but in the R on Liberty, right here, right here was a really small Omega symbol. The Greek Omega, it kind of comes across and looks like this, was put here. And this was kind of his calling card. So for those of you that were a part of the Henning Nickel discussion, where they had an E pluribus unum, there was the little mark in the coin that was his calling card. This was the calling card in this particular one. This is probably one of the more famous ones. Now, if there are any counterfeit coin that I would like to collect, this is definitely one of them. Just because there's a story behind it, along with the Henning nickel, there's a really cool story behind it. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of details that you can find, and there's this call sign. And so this is just one of those things that I would really like to see in person and actually have this coin. Now we get into the first penny that people should be paying attention to, right? And that is the 1914D. Now, there were a couple things with this one that I talked about where when you look at this particular coin, there's some things that you want to look for. And so one of the biggest things that I talked about earlier was you're going to want to look at the spacing and the mint mark placement of this particular coin. Okay, so when you look at the mint mark placing, the mint mark placing should be just right where it's at. So the D should be in line with that 9. Okay, now if the 9 is over here more and there's a big gap here, then what that is usually indicative of is a 1944 that has been modified. So you'll see an unusually large gap here within this particular coin. And because there's that gap, and again, I should have had a better photo where you could see an example of that, but you'll see a very large gap here. But the other thing is you're going to be looking for the area, again, around the D. You'll see if there's a smooth kind of whitish area or clean copper area around the D to indicate that a D was put on a regular 1914. The next coin that we're going to go over, and again, I don't know if you guys want to talk about all of these, but this is the silver serpent. Sorry, could you zoom microscopically and see the difference? So if you're looking now, I don't have any of these obviously to put under a coin scope to really zoom in. But there are methods that NGC and PCGS have to really look at the composition of the surface of the coin. And they're going to be able to detect microscopic marks. They're going to be able to look at things like chemical erosion. So did they use a chemical? Did a really good craftsman alter the surface in a way where you couldn't see that necessarily with the eye? All of those things leave traces. And so there's a way to do it. Now, in order to demonstrate that, we would have to get somebody like one of the graders or one of the chief investigators from NGC or PCGS. And that would make a really good episode. I actually can talk with a few people to see if that's something, if you guys are interested in it. The other thing is I know there's a ton of information about counterfeiting on NGC and PCGS. So if you want to look specifically at some of the microscopic level and the really close level regarding what it looks like to see a modified coin, I will see if I can do some research and pull that information up, and then I'll reach out and see if there's any experts that are available and maybe interview them on one of the live streams or one of the videos. If that's something you're interested in, I would really like to do that. Now, the 1914 is one of those where, again, because there were only 240,000 pieces struck in this, there's a lot of counterfeits in this state. And again, there are things to look at. Now, one of the key items within the 1914 comes between the markings, the BLP, and the 1914. So right here in this particular area, if this were an authentic coin, there should be a small little indentation. Now, there's a mark here, but there's not an indentation on this particular coin. So if you were to look at this coin, number one, if you look at the details of this coin, The date is actually pretty good. The 4 is a little short and truncated, but this is a telltale marker for this particular coin, and it doesn't exist. And so that's, again, you're going to still look at the things like the marks on the Indian neck here next to the collar into the headdress, and you're going to look for the spikes across the edge. But this is one of the diagnostic tools that you're going to want to look at. So the one coin that I wouldn't have expected to be number one is probably what I would consider, or wait, I'm not at number one yet. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Now, this coin, and I know this person's not on, but Philip Thibault is one of my viewers. And, if you watch this video, shout out, because this guy, he loves Mercury dimes. And last episode, I started to do a Mercury dime book, and he's going to hook me up to fill out some of my gaps. So I'll be sharing a video of that and the gaps that he sent me. So if you like Mercury dimes and you want to check that out, then this is something that I'll be doing in another video. So the 1916D, again, this is one of those things where the most common counterfeit is you take a 1916 Philadelphia and you add a mint mark. Now, when you come down here, now this is a counterfeit coin. A couple of things that you're going to be looking at. Number one, you're going to be looking at the placement. But in addition to it, there's a couple things that you're going to be looking. And number one on this is going to be, is it the right style of D? Is that mint mark the right type? Is it the wrong font? If it's the wrong font, then again, you need to look at this. Now, in this particular coin, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. And so if you're going to be buying one of these coins, and they're pretty pricey because they're extremely famous key date, buy this from a reputable dealer. Buy this from somebody you know. If you're going to buy it, even encapsulated, buy it from somebody that you trust. We have a lot of channels on here in which that I would recommend you go to if you're looking at these, just because the information they put out is really good. They're trusted sources. I wouldn't buy one of these off eBay unless it was being sold by somebody that we trusted and had a really good reputation, just because there's so many, the potential for counterfeiting, even in encapsulation, both with PCGS and NGC. Now, this is the information that I got here is from NGC, but PCGS says that one of the highest encapsulated counterfeits come in PCGS encapsulations. And so, again, it's just something that you definitely want to look at. All right, so now earlier I got ahead of myself, but the number one coin, and there's a lot of things here in the number one that you're going to want to look at. And this is, of course, the all-famous 1909 SVDB. Now, I want to kind of talk about this one a little bit specific because there's a lot of, number one, for numismatic value, this is kind of a holy grail of coins. Now, I'm not talking about errors, but I'm talking about cents. This is something that everybody wants. They can be made extremely cheap. You can get planchets. You can file down coins, and then they can stamp them. There's a lot of things that they can do to make it appear authentic. And so if you're looking at buying one of these, again, there's some definite things that you're going to want to look at to really make sure that you're getting something. Number one is you're going to be looking at the VDB, right? So you're going to want to look at the VDB, and you're going to want to see if there's any tool marks around in and around the VDB. You're going to be looking at the font. You're going to be looking to make sure that it's present. If you have a VDB coin, whether it's a 1909 VDB, or if you have access to good quality, high resolution images of a 1909 SVDB, pull it up on your computer and be looking at it when you're looking at this one, because you're really going to want to look at the fonts. You're going to want to make sure that the dots in the VDB, you're going to want to make sure that they're closer to the VDB. You don't want the dots between the VDB to be over close to the B, close to the D, and then way away from the B. If they are separated there, then you're definitely going to want to look at that, because that is a problem. The other thing that you're going to want to look at is the location and the placement of the S. Now, the coin that you see here in the screen, this is a counterfeit coin. This is not an authentic coin, because the placement of the mint marks, there's four key placements within the 1909 S VDB. And the placements start basically in line with the 9. So if you come straight down on the 1909 SVB, the end of the S should be right here. If it's more inside the 9, it's probably not authentic, and you need to get that looked at. I wouldn't even recommend purchasing the coin. If you see it from a source like eBay or something like that, if it's in an encapsulation, get the number, report it to NGC, and let's do what we can to remove these things from circulation. So we're talking about placements. So there's four agreed upon placements of the S. So the first one is the vertical S, just like you see here, except it's in the right position, just off the edge of the 9. That's a good solid clean S. And inside that S right here, I'm going to zoom in because you don't see it here. And again, I'm sorry for the image here. But right here in the S, there's going to be a little indentation or additional piece of material. And it's not in all of them. It is something that is found in 2 of the types. And the 2 types that it's found in are an S that's slightly tipped to the right. So if it's in the gap and it's slightly tipped, so the S would be kind of more like this, where instead of straight up, it would be tilted probably, let's say 10 degrees to the right, pointing towards the O. So the S would be here, and the top of the S would be more pointing towards the O in the 1909, or the 0 in the 1909. There's another one that has no mark that is farther over. So if you look at the position of this one, this S would start to end over here in the right side of the O. And so that's kind of where the end of the S would be. Again, this one is slightly tipped. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move this over. Tell me if you guys can see. Can you guys see that on your screen pretty clearly? Silver Serpent, I'll answer that in just a moment, okay? This is definitely something that I want you to do. But so this is a better kind of, whoops. This is kind of a better showing of where those estimate marks are. So again, you can see the placement here. This is the one that, again, it's slightly tipped at about 10 degrees towards the 1909. You're going to be looking at that area here, and that's where the little additional piece of material is. The other one, again, is farther over to the right. So if you look at these two, you see that this one is slightly tilted. It's a slightly different S, and it's more tilted to the right, but it is still tilted at that same basic degree. And then the last one is a little bit farther over. And again, this is more upright, but this particular coin has that little itty bitty area within the S that has that additional piece of material. And this is something key. This is definitely something you're going to want to be looking for when you're looking at the 1909 SVDB. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back over and kind of just zoom out. And again, just, I mean, you know, I don't know if you have one, Silver Serpent, or if any of the other people that are on. But your question earlier was, where do these come from? And the question is, they've come from different places. Now, some of them come from China, but there were a lot of 1909s earlier that were coming from India, Pakistan, and there's another place I can't remember what it is. I'm not sure how they identified where they were coming from. It might have been because of the availability of copper ore in that area. I'm not exactly sure how they knew that, but there's a couple different places for it. Now, again, if you're looking at this particular coin and you don't see those mint marks in that particular fashion on this coin, then you're not going to find it. Oh, that sucks, Silver Serpent. I've never had one. I was fortunate enough to find a 1909 VDB in a coin roll about 3 weeks ago. But the 1909S that I have, I had to purchase. But unfortunately, I don't have one of these. So I apologize. That really sucks that somebody stole yours, especially your stepdad. That's a real bummer. But that's kind of all I had for the discussion regarding the top 10. Now, I don't know, Silver Serpent, I don't know if you have time. If you want to join me in chat, we can kind of talk about this a little bit more. There's 3 people online. Say hi, put a dot in the thing so that I get credit for your views. That would be nice. But anyway, I just wanted to share that information with you. Now, what I am going to be doing in subsequent videos, again, as I stated before, I'm going to be doing something on the Mercury dime. I'm going to be talking about kind of the history, the development of that dime, talking about the creator of the dime, who actually who developed it, kind of talking about some of the history there. I'm going to be talking about some additional coins. I'm going to be doing. I was going to do a dollar bill search, $1 and a $2 bill search tonight at the conclusion of the counterfeit coin discussion. Unfortunately, I got in 300 bills, and they were all subsequent order. So they went from 801 all the way through. They were all brand new, all clean, crisp. So doing a number search, there was no way for any of them to be trinaries or anything like that. So I can look at them for errors within them, but again, it would have been a very boring review because there really wasn't anything there. So, but that's basically all I had for tonight. I hope that you guys found this interesting. Again, please hit that like. There's only been a few people pop in. Hopefully more people watch this later on. But I hope you enjoyed this. I wish you the very best in 2023. And again, keep looking out for more videos and more information. And I wish you the best. Y'all take care. Be blessed.